What does Gilgamesh, the Iraq War, Texas, and mermaids have to do with each other? I'm going to tell you a secret. It's about something called Subject B16. But to tell you this story, we're going to have to start from the beginning. There's a military base near Freshwater Springs in Texas. San Marcos, Texas is home to crystal clear waters, fed by San Marcos Springs, one of the oldest inhabited sites in North America. But few know the real reason this site has attracted people for so long. But it wasn't just the archaeologists that were interested in this area. Military scientists also. In the 1950s, Aquarena Springs became a very important tourist attraction, known for its underwater performances, featuring women dressed as mermaids. And all of this in a submerged theater. And everybody thought that this was just for fun. But there was one mermaid that stood out. She was never named, never photographed. And locals whispered that she never needed the air hose, that her hair flowed even when she was still, and that her eyes glowed in this green-blue light. Even when the waters were murky, you could see her eyes glow. And the tourists joked around, saying, "Oh, she was just too good. She performed a mermaid perfectly." But the staff never talked about her. Not even decades later. And now we get into the myth. In 1969, this mermaid disappeared, leaving only bubbles and a broken oxygen tank behind. Decades later, here comes some declassified documents. And now these declassified CIA documents hinted to something very different. A secret branch of the U.S. Navy, working out of what is now a defunded military base. So the story goes. This facility was testing out sonar radars. And they began this biological sonar testing in the springs during the Cold War. And they recorded frequencies that they'd never heard before on Earth. Frequencies that have been tied to ancient Sumerian aquatic gods. And these documents mention subject B16. And B16 was also plastered all over cryptic notes. And some believe that B16 was not a code, but a reference to the B16 mermaid. She was a half-human, half-aquatic being that was genetically created. And get this, it was genetic material that they had recovered from Iraq during the Gulf War. And allegedly, supposedly, this was taken from the Gilgamesh tomb. Yes, you heard that right. The claims about Gilgamesh's tomb being raided, those were true. The Iraq War was never about oil, gold, or weapons of mass destruction. Well, it could have been weapons, but not as the conventional weapons we all think of. Secrets be told, it was about ancient DNA. Basically, the mermaid from Aquarena, she wasn't a performer at all. Allegedly, supposedly, she was the result of an Anunnaki template of hybridization. Basically, what they did was take genetic material out of the tomb of Gilgamesh when they raided the museum and took the tomb. And for those that don't remember, the Hillary Clinton emails talked about the tomb of Gilgamesh. So they took this genetic material. So it was never like weapons. It was about DNA. So what they did was reproduce Anunnaki magic, Anunnaki science. This was the hybrid creature between a human and an aquatic being, but also something else. The declassified documents don't say exactly what happened. All we know is that when she discovered that she was something else entirely, she decided to take off. Basically, when she was performing, she didn't really understand what she was. So when she did realize what she was, she returned to the springs, which was her natural habitat, slipping away during one of her performances, and never to be seen again. And guess what? The springs are now protected. No swimming, no fishing, no diving. Why? Well, probably because she's still there. Because the locals say that the water glows at night. Sometimes, if you listen carefully, you can hear her singing. But not from above, from beneath. And I'm not even surprised at this point. After the government itself has come out and says that we have UFOs and UAPs coming out of our oceans, scientists discovering these underwater pockets of oceans beneath our oceans, not to mention inner earth caverns that are like bringing King Kong and Godzilla stories to life. Would it be so far-fetched that there are aquatic beings in these oceans, beneath our oceans? Especially when the Sumerian scriptures, the Sumerian tablets, talk about the Anunnaki creating these hybrid species. We have ancient myths about Yemaya, the goddess that was half human, half mermaid, being the queen of the oceans. Everybody's expecting disclosure about extraterrestrials. But what if the extraterrestrials are aquatic beings that are extra of Terra, Earth, and live in our oceans?